Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Devils Advocate. Tonight I have Brother Eric Ressinger sitting in, flying co-pilot until my co-host Dr. Stephen Rourke gets home from college or from school, wherever he is teaching. But that's cool because we were going to talk about a few things that are kind of like in the news lately. And the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is this whole Ebola thing. Eric, you live in Texas.
Yeah, I live in East Texas, closer to Shreveport than Dallas, but with the way Ebola can propagate and spread, that doesn't mean it won't be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean there is some undue fear about Ebola. The fact that Ebola is not an airborne contagion, that it does require coming into contact with an individual and body fluids to exchange. But, that's as simple as, talking to someone with, spit coming out of your mouth or sneezing on someone or whatever that can do that. Brandy, my fiance, and her children lived right outside of Dallas. And I'm just very grateful that I got them out of there, because the way the government is handling this thing is not giving me warm and cuddlies inside as more and more details about this are coming to light.
Well, but David, we have the CDC. We have the Center for Disease Control. Surely the Center for Disease Control knows what they're doing.
Well, I listened to the government appointee that the current administration put in charge of it speak the other day, and again, I did not get a whole lot of warm and cuddlies from his speech.
Well, at least he didn't sit there and say, "Hold my beer,"
Yeah, and I mean, if we look at it realistically, it originated from Liberia in this case, and Africa is not known for its good hygiene or any of that nature, and we do have a little bit of a stand on how we treat these sort of things in a more modern term. But still and yet, it's a dangerous disease. It attacks the young and the very old, and generally kills them, while the in-betweens do get it, but generally have a higher capability of surviving it. I don't think anyone that catches it in this country, it's an automatic death sentence. I'm pretty sure that we can save a vast majority of those who do get infected. The problem is there some kind of government neglect here, do you think?
Well, to even allow it in the country shows the problems that we have with people with the holes in our border. Our border is perforated, and that's being kind.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. For when a country loses its borders, it ceases to become a country anymore, and that's part of what's going on here. I think when the Ebola thing broke out, there are two things that happened that were disturbing to me. One is that when we actually sent people over there, that was the first thing. Why are we sending people over there? The second thing is when we had two of our people get infected with the disease, we bring them back to this country to treat them. That seems kind of, I don't know, stupid to me.
At least a gamble that should have never been taken.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree with that. And the thing is that, yeah, sure, bringing them back to Atlanta to treat them, yeah, I can understand that. But here you've got a person flying in from Liberia. Why are we not quarantining all flights coming in from Liberia until this is under control?
That's true, and I can tell you from experience, there's a huge Nigerian population, and other African countries there too. Population in Dallas. Awesome people, very hardworking people. It's just like you said, their home country is not known for its medical record, its hygiene. That's why there's so many shots you have to take if you do go there, correct?
Yeah, and rightly so. And I'm not, I'm not really pointing the finger at anybody here. I'm asking questions. There's things about it that I don't quite understand. I mean, and you know, Ebola is not the only thing we're dealing with here. We've got this virus that's just made the news today in Richmond, Virginia, where children are coming down with this kind of a respiratory virus, and it's very disturbing because no one's making any progress with this thing, and it affects children, and it can cause paralysis. And there's just things that, you know, I just don't have a lot of faith in the government lately, based on the performance here lately of the Secret Service letting a person get all the way to the green room in the White House before they're stopped. I see where the director of the Secret Service resigned today. I think that's probably a good step in the right direction. The warning system that was installed in the White House to protect our president was turned off because the usher's office had issues with it going off. It was too loud for them. I mean, really, we care about the ushers dealing with sound pollution rather than the president of the United States' life? I mean, I may not agree with the policies of our president, but he's our president. You know, we're supposed to protect him. It seems like the government is falling apart on numerous levels, and I'm not really sure what that is.
Yeah, well, if you want my opinion, well, I'm going to give it to you anyway. That goes back to from the very top. It's mismanagement. That's been my issue with our current leader now since he took office. Is he has never been a proven manager, and if you're not a manager, you have no business being in that office at all.
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing that with this whole ISIS thing. I mean, he doesn't take responsibility for anything. Number one, that's something that's disturbing to me. The other thing that happened here is, you know, he makes like he didn't know anything about what was going on. He gets an intelligent briefing every day. He gets an intelligent paper every day with the current assessment of what's going on in the world. And the intelligence agencies are sitting there saying, you know, this information's been given to him for the last year and a half. And he has chosen not to read it or not to act on it or whatever. And now all of a sudden when the caca hits the fan, now he's pointing the fingers everywhere but at himself. And again, I think you hit on something there. I mean, he has terrible managerial skills, and we're finding this out.
Yeah, well, let's look at the economy. As much as I hate to see it, I don't really care what party the next president comes from, as long as he comes from the business world. If we don't get economically back on our feet where we need to be, we're in some trouble.
Yeah, I agree. The economy is still very sluggish, and we're in, what, year 6 now?
Yeah, but, you know, of course, you'll see the liberal press will begin spewing its noxious intellectual fumes before it's all over with, because they're already trying to say he's a better recovery president than Reagan was. And if anybody doesn't remember, Reagan had to recover from the Carter administration, and that was gas lines. I mean, that was bad stuff back then.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a terrible time. But before we get too far, I just want to say that our show tonight is brought to you by Clay Smith's new book, All You Know Is What You Think You Know, and it's available at spiritwatch.net. Thank you, Clay, for supporting our show. Now that I got that out of the way, I mean, we could sit here and debate, you know, how stupid politics is till we're blue in the face. I have switched from becoming a conservative, which I'm done with the Republican Party because, to me, they're just a differently dressed version of the Democratic Party. And I've become a libertarian because, you know what? The libertarians have the right idea. Yeah. Less intrusion by government, downsizing of government. Let the government do what they do well, defend the country. Give them simple things to deal with, as the founding fathers agreed to, and leave the rest of us the hell alone.
Yeah, I would absolutely concur with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of opened my eyes to this whole political climate, you know, and our government has the best politicians money can buy, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Well, you know, just to show people that we can do more than talk politics, how about that lady down in is it North Carolina? There's some exciting scientific news announced today, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, it was announced actually earlier this week. But this comes on the coattail of Stephen Hawking saying back in January that black holes do not exist, that he was wrong. And since then, this whole plethora of things have come out. I'll read the article to you. The article states, black holes mathematically impossible. Study finds. Black holes, the most dense objects in the universe that do not even let light escape, do not exist. A physics professor in the U.S. has claimed. Laura Massini-Houghton at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the College of Arts and Sciences has proven mathematically that black holes can never come into being in the first place. For decades, black holes were thought to form when a massive star collapses under its own gravity to a single point in space. Imagine the Earth being squished into a ball the size of a peanut, called a singularity, researchers say. An invisible membrane, known as the event horizon, surrounds the singularity, and crossing this horizon means that you would never cross back. It's the point where a black hole's gravitational pull is so strong that nothing can escape it, they said. We even have a term for what happens to you. It's called spaghettization or something like that, meaning you get stretched real thin like a string of spaghetti. The black holes pit two fundamental theories of the universe against each other. That's an incorrect statement right there, but we'll get back to that. Einstein's theory of gravity predicts the formation of black holes. No, Einstein's theory of relativity predicts the formation of black holes. But a fundamental law in quantum theory states that no information from the universe can ever disappear. This also isn't quite so. But anyway, efforts to combine these two theories lead to mathematical nonsense and became known as the information loss paradox. There's also about 300 other theories in quantum theory that, doesn't agree with any of this either. Efforts to combine these two theories lead to mathematical nonsense and became known as information loss paradox. In 1974, physicist Stephen Hawking used quantum mechanics to show that black holes emit radiation. The very same quantum mechanics that are now supposedly flawed. Since then, scientists have detected fingerprints in the cosmos that are consistent with this radiation. Better than that, we have witnessed the effects of black holes through telescopes in the universe. So what we saw doesn't exist according to this math. And that's the bending of time-space, the gravity well formation, and the effect that it has on stars orbiting these non-black hole black holes. Since then, scientists have detected fingerprints. Okay, I got that. But now Mercier-Houghton describes an entirely new scenario. Mercier-Houghton agrees with Hawking that as a star collapses under its own gravity, it produces Hawking radiation. However, in her new work, Mercier-Houghton showed that by giving off this radiation, the star also sheds mass. Meaning what? So much so that it shrinks. As it shrinks, it no longer has the density to become a black hole. Before a black hole can form, the dying star swells one last time and then explodes. Singularity never forms, and neither does an event horizon. The paper, which was recently submitted to RxIV, an online repository of physics papers that is not peer-reviewed, key word here, not peer-reviewed, offers exact numerical solutions to this problem and was done in collaboration with Harold Pfeiffer, an expert on numerical relativity at the University of Toronto. Experimental evidence may one day provide physical proof as to whether or not black holes exist in the universe. For now, Mercier-Houghton said the mathematics is conclusive. I disagree with her. Many physicists and astronomers believe that our universe originated from a singularity that began expanding with the Big Bang. However, if singularities do not exist, then physicists have to rethink their ideas of the Big Bang and whether it ever happened. I do agree that there was not a Big Bang. I believe there was a big flow, kind of like what happens when a condom explodes. Anyway, having read all of that, I would like to point out a few things very scientifically here. Math is considered by many to be the wonder language of the world, and in some ways it is. However, you can pretty much prove nearly anything you want to with math. Case in point, several years back, many years back, there was a physicist named Hugh Everett III who came up with a theory called the many worlds theory. And for many years, this was sort of entertained as a real concept, real theory in physics. Then it kind of fell in disfavor, and by the time Hugh Everett ended his life in suicide, his theory was pretty much scoffed as being ridiculous. Then Dr. David Deutsch enters into the scene a few years back, and he proves that the many worlds theory is real with math. But there's a problem with that. Because what the many worlds theory states is that anytime we have a decision process, we create an alternative universe. One in which we make the decision, one in which we do not. In that case, each individual that lives on the face of planet Earth is responsible for the creation of several million universes in their lifetime. And magnify this over the whole history of human beings on the planet, that's a lot of universes, and it's kind of reminiscent of a story that I was once told about three seamen who were taking a sailing test in the U.S. Navy, and an admiral was quizzing them on what they had learned. And the admiral said, well, he says, you've got a storm blowing up on the starboard. What do you do? And the first seaman says, well, I throw out an anchor. So he goes to the second seaman. He says, you've got one coming up from the bow. He says, what do you do? And he says, well, I throw out an anchor. And then he goes to the third one. He says, now you've got one coming up on the port. What do you do? And he says, oh, I throw out an anchor. So the admiral goes, whoa, wait a minute. He says, where are you guys getting all these anchors from? And the seamen say together, the same place you're getting all these storms from, Admiral. It comes to a point of where is the stuff coming from? You know, you have to have an unlimited supply of energy. And we know that that's not true. We have a very finite amount of energy. It's just permeating all through our universe. What's outside of our universe, we don't know. But somewhere this energy has to come from to formulate these universes. And if the energy is already outside of our universe, it's probably already contained in an existing universe in the first place. I developed a version of the multiverse theory several years ago as part of my own research on black holes and on wormholes specifically. And one of the things that is a great visual aid is to take a bunch of solo cups and stack them in a stack. And go into the middle of that stack, and right in the middle, that cup is our universe. And if you look at artist conceptions of the universe, they're kind of cup-shaped, like a cup on its side. And I did this for a specific reason, to kind of try to work on the explanation of paranormal information emergence, which is part of my theory on wormholes being the source of paranormal activity. Well, if you look at that cup that's us in the center, there's 4 or 5 cups above it that are still within our cup. And then there's 4 or 5 cups below it that are sort of within our cup. So that anything in our cup could have a direct relationship to those other 10 cups, the 5 above and the 5 below. That's kind of like the way I see the paranormal megaverse, is the fact that we live in this cup, and there's cups above us and there's cups below us. And sometimes stuff from the cups above interacts with us through wormholes, and sometimes the cups beneath us interact with us through wormholes. And as we go up in cups, we're going up in resonant frequencies. As we go down in cups, we're going down in resonant frequencies. So the stuff that's from the very low frequency, not so bueno stuff, is in the lower cups. And the stuff that's much higher frequency and much great bueno is in the upper cups. But either way, each of those cups has its own energy contained within it. And when these wormholes form, information emerges, which is also energy, into our universe at that spot. So we're actually taking on additional energy when these things form. Now, it's also very possible that we are sending the exact same amount of energy back into them to maintain a status quo or a balance there. But taking all these into consideration, and my mumbo jumbo here, and going back to this concept, you can prove a lot of things with math, but until you actually are holding the sack full of seashells, in your hand, there's no proof that those seashells exist. Even though you can mathematically, postulate that, oh yeah, they're there and this is why, you don't really have the proof until you hold them in your hand. And there's a lot of things that this theory turns on its edge and offers no explanation for. One of those is the gravity wells that are associated with black hole formation, and the observations that are made by astrophysicists and astronomers of star fluctuations around these areas of total darkness that we call black holes, that are essentially non-black holes now.
Well,
so, there's something missing from this theory, and I suspect that's exactly why it was not submitted for peer review.
Well, David, maybe there is no such thing as a black hole. It's just a big group of bad decisions attempting to form a universe from the mass that won't happen from the singularity, creation of the singularity.
Or perhaps it's a bunch of ex-wives. It could be that too. Yeah, a rim shot there, buddy. But hear it again. What are these people thinking? I mean, they're very myopic in their approach on this, and it's almost like they went about trying to disprove something in physics that there actually is some evidence of it existing.
Right.
So, in order for this theory to have any kind of foundation whatsoever to it besides the mathematical proof, is it's got to offer explanations for these other things that it's throwing out with the bathwater. And in order to do that, I'm not seeing that coming from that. So to me, it's just someone trying to get their name in the news.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it was submitted to and being advertised from a place that is not peer reviewed.
Yeah, not only that, it originally showed up in some technical review in India. It didn't even show up in the United States.
Right.
And Hawking, changing his decision and everything, Hawking's getting a little old, and I'm not meaning to say that his thinking is flawed, but, he's said a lot of things that I don't agree with and a lot of other physicists don't agree with. One thing he did say is that wormholes open up around us all the time, millions of them, but they open up at a Planck level and we never notice them. I wonder if he's going to reverse his decision on that, because all of these things are part of Einstein's theory of relativity, which, is an established theory and has actually been used to do a lot of things scientifically successfully. So are we going to have to rewrite one of the most fundamental theories we have in physics? I don't think this paper does that.
Yeah. And it does not happen about twice a year. There's a scientific discovery that really isn't actually a discovery. It's more of a rehashing of something somebody did 50 years ago. It's just, like you said, it's a publicity ploy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, it's like so many things. Scientists nowadays, they're a product of the public education system and of the college system, which is dramatically altered significantly since I went to school. And, I was having kind of a discussion on this now with this Common Core crap, like Common Core math. And people disagree with me, and that's fine. I mean, the basis of my decisions are commonsensical. I mean, I look at something that takes, 10 seconds to do in your head if you know the rules of math, and it takes a child, 3 minutes or 4 minutes to do the same problem because he's counting instead of doing the math function. And to me, that's like simplifying math to the point of where it's really great for making change. And apparently it's not so great at that, because I went to a fast food restaurant a couple of days ago and I got the wrong change back. So it's not even preparing our children for minimum wage jobs.
Yeah, which of course now will be for what, $15 an hour? But that's a whole different show there.
Yeah, let's not get to talking about minimum wage because that's another whole. You ever notice how when minimum wage goes up, so does everything else?
Yeah,
And
funny how
once
that
you
happens.
raise everyone's minimum wage, everyone's back to normal or back to where they were originally within a year or 2 years.
Right. And
I mean, when I was working in a minimum wage job when I was growing up, the minimum wage was $1.60 an hour. A loaf of bread was 39 cents. Minimum wage right now is what, 8 something? It depends on where you live, I guess. But it's like minimum wage is 8 something, 9 something an hour, whatever. And a loaf of bread is like $2.89. It's like,
right.
That money has to come from somewhere. And farmers, they're going to pass it on to you. Manufacturers are going to pass it on to the consumer. So minimum wage helps the people that make minimum wage for probably about a year, 2 years before the economy shifts to compensate for it. And it shifts globally.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't understand about, how that's just how it works.
Well, people don't understand the economy. It's very obvious when you look at what our government does now, that the government doesn't understand the economy. We have no monetary policy. Our monetary policy is to keep on printing money. Talk to people in South America about that practice. That's the quickest way for a government to collapse there is in the world, is to have unbacked currency. And if I was in charge of the government right now, I'd be buying back all these federal notes. I'd be getting this money off the market. The dollar would regain value significantly overnight.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We need a manager. We need somebody in the office that can take control.
Well, particularly right now in this grave period of our country's history where our economic crisis, which continues to unfold, continues to take its toll on the average person. And the people who pay for this is the middle class. The government now has more people on welfare than ever in the history of our country. We are spending more money on welfare. So the poor people that are out there, they're still surviving. They're still getting the money they need to live off of. But the middle class is disappearing and becoming the poor people and actually going on welfare because they can't pay for it. And rich people are moving because they can afford to move.
That's right.
So all the wealth is slowly transferring out of this country to other countries.
Yeah. And
it's the Roman Empire all over again.
And people don't see it because there's a new Xbox game coming out, or you can now you can get 500 channels on Dish TV. Yeah, I mean people don't they buy into what they
care. People don't care.
Yeah.
And it's sad, and yet some of these people that are they're on Facebook 24/7, and they're the first people that bitch about it, and yet they vote for the same old jerks, or they don't vote at all.
Right.
And we've reached a tipping point in our country right now. There's a coming civil war.
Yeah.
And I hate to be the harbinger of gloom and doom, but there's going to reach a point where the backs of the middle class is going to break, and there's people in America that when their back's against the wall, it's going to be 1776 all over again. And the government knows this. That's why they're trying to take people's guns away. That's why they're, Obama's signing all these executive orders that gives him all this power, which is illegal as hell. So that he's setting himself up to be able to take control of the situation. He's hired a disarmament expert. Did you know that?
What is it now? What is and where would you find a disarmament expert?
He went to the United Nations.
Well, and how is that organization working out for everybody?
Yeah, exactly. It's not working out for me worth a damn. You ought to try driving over anywhere in New Jersey or New York City when they're in session. But I mean, government agencies bought up all the ammunition that was on the planet last year, and it took months and months and months for ammunition to be readily available for consumers again, and sports shooters and target shooters and everything else, because every department in the federal government now has its own little private army. What the hell is that for?
Yeah. And why has the military been taking their surplus and sending it to the police agencies?
Exactly. I mean, the government is prepared for this to occur, and it's Americans getting ready to kill Americans, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
And people are just playing their Xboxes, like, oh, no, these things are happening. And I'm not some kind of conspiracy nut or anything like that. I'm just observing what's going on, and I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Our government is not exactly a government in the sunshine.
Well, and the real kicker that a lot of people don't even want to talk about is we won't truly know what the plans are right now for another 2 years. In 2 years, that's when we'll find out exactly how enforceable the executive orders are.
Oh, yeah. And I thought it was kind of funny. Also, last week, we had the resignation of Eric Holder. And everyone was like, oh, my God, why did he resign? And I'm like, do you people even, pay attention to what's going on? It's like Eric Holder resigned because a legal organization won their lawsuit to open up and unclassify all of the documents from Fast and Furious. They won their civil suit case in federal court. When those documents get released, Eric Holder is probably going to have indictments handed out against him.
Right.
So, no surprise here. I'm surprised he got away with it as long as he did. So that's the primary motivation behind him getting the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, people. It's almost sad because, David, we've seen it in not only regular life, but in the various facets of the paranormal that we've both been involved in. You get people that, when you take free thought and free thinking out of situations, the sheep take over. And the bad thing is the sheep are getting very vocal.
Well, that's the thing. And it's not even, sheep isn't even the wrong word. I think idealists is probably a better word. You've got people who believe in a utopia.
Yeah.
A utopian society. And that's never going to happen. I'm sorry. But what's kind of interesting is we've had all these liberal policies now for a solid 6 years. The government's running out of money. The government's printing money. The government's borrowing money because these policies are all about giving away other people's money. It's all about spending other people's money. And eventually, this is why socialism collapses, because eventually you run out of other people's money. If the redistribution of wealth, for example, if that's not a communist policy, nothing is. That means that everybody makes the same amount, or everybody, regardless of the amount of work you do. So why work if you're going to get the same amount of money that a guy that's busting his hump working 2 or 3 jobs so his family survives? Why should you work if you can just get the same amount of money through the redistribution of wealth program that they're trying to put into effect? They're trying to take money that rich people earned working all their lives using the American way to make a living, and they've made a successful life for themselves, and now they're going to be penalized for doing that? I don't know about you, but I never had a poor person ever give me a job.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, what do you think is going to happen to the jobs in this country? And everybody's like, oh, well, the corporations are evil. Yeah, maybe they are, but they drive the economy. Certainly no more evil than our own government is. I was just watching a thing on TV tonight about Area 51, for example. There's a lawsuit that's been going on for several years representing the workers there. And this is probably not a well-known tidbit of information, because the government's been violating its own laws by burning toxic material on that base, and it's created health issues for a lot of the workers there. And the workers essentially have no civil rights working there. So they got a lawyer and they sued the crap out of them, and they've won one of the 3 lawsuits that have been done. And as a result, the government can no longer burn these horrible chemicals and things on the base. But there's something really drastically wrong when the government can make a dark base and violate its own laws and subjugate its own citizenry to a lack of civil rights that aren't offered to the rest of the nation. That's wrong.
That's right. Well, and I don't know how you feel about this, David. One of the great things that I've often wondered about, because this came up, as I remember, this came up 10 or 12 years ago when you first started getting other parties involved in the election process, and by that I mean it was, 20 years ago it wasn't a libertarian. There was another party that was I can't remember. I was much younger back then.
Yeah, I know. My memory goes too.
Anyway, I remember them talking about a flat tax, and I've thought about that. But I mean, and that makes sense to me because it would be the same for everyone, no matter what you made.
Exactly. It's the only fair tax system there is, because what it does is it takes a percentage, and everybody pays that percentage based on their income.
Right. And people don't understand this, once again, because they play Xbox and they don't pay attention to what goes on. Forget their own country in the world. They don't understand, like, if you live in the UK, you pay, 53 or 54% tax on your income?
Yeah, you pay 54% of your income for crappy health care. Essentially. Crappy public services, crappy health care. It doesn't work because, first of all, it takes the government 20 times the amount of manpower to do the same thing one guy does in the private sector. That's the first thing, because you have one worker and 19 supervisors at various levels in the ladder. You can't, anytime the government takes over something, the quality of services goes downhill. A prime example of this would be the VA. Let's look at the VA. The conditions that our troops go through when they go to get medical care at the VA in this country is primitive.
And I don't see how we can stand for it.
Well, because nobody cares. Nobody's aware. They see the news where, Bieber gets arrested for DUI, but, some vet has, a wooden stump tied to his leg because the federal government won't buy him a prosthesis so he can walk. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
But people aren't paying attention. I'm telling you, it's the Roman Empire all over again. It's the fall of the Roman Empire, where people just don't care and they're into their own lives, into their personal whatever they're doing. And the world's falling down around them, and then they're complaining because, oh wow, man, it's like I went to buy this game at the game store, and it's $62 now. Duh. That's because minimum wage just went up again.
That's right. And like you said, it's free thought, it's free thinking, and when people stop thinking. We're in the situation we are now because what's even worse than not even having free thought is apathy.
Here's another thing. Do you know how the current millionaires are made today? Some of the richest people in the world are entrepreneurs. They're people who came up with an idea and they made a fortune on their idea because they thought. They thought about something the world needed. They created it and they marketed it. And they're rich. But they busted their ass to do it. They went long sleepless nights. They worked out of their garages. They ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They did whatever they had to do. Look at the success story of this guy that created My Pillow. Have you ever seen that?
No.
My Pillow just got endorsed by the National Therapeutic Association or something like that. It's probably the best pillow in the world to sleep on health-wise. And the guy created it because he couldn't find a pillow that he could sleep on. He had physical problems. He had issues with his back. At one time, he was a drug addict. He had all kinds of personal issues, but he couldn't sleep, and he just home-built this pillow. And the pillow worked so well, he said, shit, he says, he sold his house. He ended up, his marriage got destroyed by it because he was in so much debt. He was over $1 million in personal debt, but he got the damn thing to the market. Now he's a multimillionaire. But he suffered through all this loss to bring that product to the market, and it's helping thousands of people sleep. I mean, there's people. I mean, I was listening to Don Imus the other day. Don Imus has like 20 of these friggin' pillows because he's rich, but you know, he's got all these pillows because he can't sleep either. He wakes up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. He bought these pillows, now he sleeps through the night, and that's the thing that sells the pillows. Entrepreneurs are the backbone of this country. I mean, that's the whole story of Apple. Apple started in a garage.
Well,
you know?
in that, I mean, it was the basis of our entire country was ideas. Different ideas than what's going on around you. Absolutely.
Innovation is what built this country. Our ability to make the world a better place to live in. And I'm not saying, you know, that America is all that, you know, because we've got issues here. I mean, we've got legitimate issues. We've got issues with polluting our environment. We've got issues with polluting our water. We've got issues with our education. We've got a lot of problems here. But what made this country great was the fact that people like you or me or anybody, you know, a kid growing up in the ghetto, could make the world his oyster simply by doing the right things and selling what he needs to sell. That's going away.
Yeah, and speaking of selling, David, you have 2 books that are available too, don't you?
Well, yeah, one's been around for a while. Paranormal Technology, Understanding the Science of Ghost Hunting, which is kind of a paranormal field manual for the paranormal investigator. It teaches you about your equipment, what it really measures, has a few theories in it, has some experiments in it you can do. Kind of a fun book. I'm still amazed when people walk up to me at an event and they hand me this dog-eared, highlighted, filled with Post-it notes copy of it, wanting me to sign it. And that's probably, you know, the biggest compliment a writer can get. But I have a new book out that I co-wrote with Robbie Lunt about a personal experience we had in 1985 called Demon Street, USA, the true story of a very haunted house. And that is doing remarkably well. When it hit the bookstores, particularly when it hit Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble had it on display on their new release shelf or their new release table. The first day I was out, about 60% of the Barnes & Noble stores in the United States ran out of their copies, their store copies, and had to call their warehouses to restock. That was like the first day. So we're pretty happy about that. We haven't seen a royalty check yet, so we don't know. But the book seems to be doing really well. It's a good story. A lot of people are calling bullshit on it, and that's fine. You know, it's not for everybody to accept. It's a very spiritual book. But it's a good story, whether you believe it or not. It's an entertaining story. It's a fun story to read. It's a rocket ride. And, I mean, I've had several people tell me that they started reading, couldn't put it down, and read the whole thing in a single sitting. So that's, you know, that's always good to hear as well. But that had to actually hit the shelves, which has made both Robbie and I incredibly busy. At the same time, the TV show came into being.
When it rains, it pours.
Well, you know, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining because I've worked very hard for most of my life and spent a whole lot of money on the paranormal, and hopefully some will start to trickle back now, and that'll be a good thing. But I'm pretty excited about the TV show. I had a wonderful opportunity. I got brought in by John Tenney, who was talking to the executive producer, Nick Groff, and Nick had mentioned to John that, you know, they needed a technical person. They needed somebody that, you know, kind of guy that wrote the book on paranormal technology. And John said, what if I get you the guy that wrote the book, Paranormal Technology? And that's how I got the part. But we're a good team. The whole team is good. The production crew is good. The production people are good. The executive producer, Nick Nolte, is a wonderful man to work for. He has great vision. He is very interested in the scientific aspect of all this. And he's, given me a lot of rope to hang myself with on it. So I'm doing the best I can not to do that. But I'm excited about it because what I actually do in the show is I have a segment where I introduce science into it. And we're literally doing experiments that are, experiments that I have been doing in the field for several years. And we are doing it and demonstrating the results to the viewer. And, I'm not making a whole lot of conclusions other than, this could be this could be that, that sort of thing. But the idea is to let the viewers view what we do and make their own minds up about it. And I think it's going to be a very refreshing viewing experience for people who have grown tired of the current offerings on TV about the paranormal.
Well, it's the presentation of information, David, and isn't that what people are going to find refreshing? Is it's like you said, it doesn't try to beat you about the head and shoulders with somebody else's ideas and ideals. It allows you to look at the information and make your own judgments.
Absolutely, and the thing is I know what my pet peeve was watching TV shows, and we tried to avoid a lot of that. I think one of the biggest annoying things I have with TV shows is when the talent on the TV show is going, "Oh, did you hear that?" And of course, you as the viewer didn't hear squat. But the people on TV are like, oh yeah, I reacted. They're all reacting to it, but you didn't hear what they heard. We try not to have that happen with us. I mean, we try to capture what we are responding to. I mean, I spent a great amount of detail on the presentation of whatever we would find with the equipment. In other words, I wanted to make sure that the viewer saw what we saw when we saw it. I think that's important. There's nothing scripted in the investigative part of the show. I mean, there's bullet points for the interviews and stuff of that nature. The things that they want to cover with the background investigation, when we're talking to the people that, were actually witnesses on the site and stuff. And that's good planning, But as far as once the real deal starts and we're running the experiments and we're doing the investigation, there's no cuts. It's shot straight through. So you're seeing what actually is happening. And I think that's going to become very evident when people watch the show, that there's no acting in this.
Right.
I mean, it's people getting the crap scared out of them. Yeah. It's people reacting to very real things that are occurring, and we tried our best to capture that in high definition during the filming of the show.
And you'll be able to see that. Was it Tuesdays? When is the premiere?
The premiere is Sunday night, October 19th at 10 p.m. on Destination America. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised. I've already been having people, like the naysayers and stuff coming out of the woodwork and questioning different things. And I'm like, you're just going to have to watch. I said, I think you're going to find that it's not what you think it's going to be.
Right. Well, David, there's a question in the chat room from Gentle Bear, and he wanted to know, will the show discuss the impact of radiation levels on investigators?
We didn't get to explore that in great detail. What we did do was we introduced, you have to understand, the first season of 6 episodes, I'm in 5 of those episodes. We introduced the concept of looking for radiation in it. As a show, this is going to unfold. You can't throw a whole lot of things at people at once. You have to sort of bring them along the way to bring them to the point of where things make sense to them and they understand it. So in the first season, we're introducing a lot of concepts. We're introducing a lot of techniques. We're introducing a lot of technology. One of the things I did talk about was the fact that it is present, and it's something that teams should be aware of and should be testing for as a matter of, recording phenomena as well as personal team safety.
That's right.
So,
and General Barry, just so you know, during one of David's field tests of the quadrilator, I was there when there was a large amount of radiation expelled.
Absolutely.
And I can actually still walk by a microwave and turn it on and off by clapping and clicking.
Yeah, the gamma radiation was abnormally high at that location. But, these are things that, the other thing that we're trying to do is to dispel a lot of the perpetuated myths that are in the field. I'm still seeing these same myths being perpetrated on the audience, and the audience is getting a little tired buying into it, I think, too. Such as battery drain. We found two very interesting things that cause battery drain. I don't know if they make it into the final cut. Again, we have no control over that editing process of what they keep and what they don't keep. But one of the things that we noted was in one of our locations, we had such a high level of EMF. The EMF was affecting equipment operation. It was affecting battery drain. It was affecting people. It was affecting people neurologically.
Right.
So we touched on some very compelling things that, of course, we didn't have the resources or time to explore in the first season. It's 6 episodes. But what I tried to do with my part of the show was to introduce these concepts and how to go about quantifying these concepts so that as the series progresses, and hopefully we'll get picked up for a season 2 where we can explore these things in greater detail, we can explore these things in more detail and provide a better understanding for how these things occur. I mean, you have to understand, my segment is a very small segment of an hour TV show. I will say that as the season filming progressed, I spent more and more time. I got more and more time to do what I did, which I was very grateful for because it allowed my input during capturing of certain pieces of evidence, which I think I explained them a little bit better than someone else could have explained it. But I was very grateful for the fact that as the filming progressed, I was given a little more and more face time to talk about these things and to actually respond to it as it was being measured. But yeah, we go into a lot of very interesting concepts that aren't so much as what people think they are. Yeah. Well, and I think that's important too.
Well, and once again, General Bear also asked in the chat room, he was wondering if the EMF was a fear cage effect, but hasn't the whole fear cage concept, hasn't that been kind of poo-pooed upon in the last year or so?
I don't want to give anything away on the season. The concept of a fear cage is an incomplete concept. The fear cage as presented to date is not substantiated by any means scientifically. However, that's not to say that there isn't an effect associated with this phenomena that structures can affect. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And I think that as the season progresses, the viewers will see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I can from our experience at the location where we had that experiment, people need to understand that your environment can imprint itself upon you. That is something that is physically possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The environment is my research over the past 15 years has been concentrating on measuring the environment and environmental changes that occur from a baseline of normalcy to an adjusted baseline of non-normalcy. So the environmental changes are very important, and the fact that the things that are changing have also an effect on the human consciousness and the human thought process is vitally important as well. And there's been damn little research done on that, and certainly nothing really on TV that's been done with that had any integrity to it whatsoever. So I'm just saying we're going to be exploring a lot of things that are frontiers in this series. And we're going to be doing it in a systematic, objective approach. And we're going to let the audience make up their own mind.
Yeah. And, you know, that's something people should look forward to. Because it's something that you can get involved. It's TV to make you think. Which is what we try to do here at ParaEncounters Network. But, I mean, I digress.
Sure. And I'm not going to talk bad about anybody, because everybody that's had a TV show on TV has blazed a trail. I mean, they have all done great work. Even if you don't like a show or don't like the people in the show, you have to admit that every paranormal show that's ever been made has put something into the pot. It's made a contribution. You know, I'm not one to judge what that contribution is or how much of a contribution it is. That's, to me, it's immaterial. What is important is that we are standing on the shoulders of people who went before us and opened a door. And what we're trying to do is to make that door a little bit wider and broader in response. So I don't want to talk bad about anybody that's had a show or has done things, because as far as I'm concerned, everyone that has been involved in paranormal TV has been a pioneer. And you know, I have personal opinions. You know, I'm opinionated. I say things and stuff, but the reality of the situation is that everyone has made a contribution that has been on TV because they've affected so many people. And it's really going to be up to history to make the judgment on what was good and what was bad and what was indifferent, whatever. That's not my job. My job is to inspire people to think for themselves, to inspire people to think outside the box, to inspire people to not just copy what they see, but to build upon what they see and make it their own. Own that sucker. Make it yours. And discover things. You know, it's like you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to have degrees. You just have to be at the right place at the right time with the right conditions and the right setup to make an incredible discovery. And that means everyone's capable of doing that. And part of my message is that everyone should be trying to do that.
Yeah, and not even necessarily in the paranormal. You should be trying to affect change in your life, in your environment, no matter what you do. I mean,
I agree with that. I mean, it's you know, it's a different way of approaching life. You know, I like to say, you know, I live my life like a warrior, and I don't mean like someone that goes off to war. I mean someone that takes on life and deals with what it hands you and makes the best of what it gives you. And I think we all need to do that. You know, we've all had setbacks, we've all had loss and sadness in our life, you know, but if we hang on to what we got, we learn from those things. And if we put those lessons into motion, then we come out of it with a positive experience. And I think that's the underlying philosophy behind all of this, is to improve our lives, improve the lives of others. And you know, it's, you know, a paranormal TV show, you know, but if we can inspire the field to do one thing differently, it would be to blaze a trail or make a path instead of following one.
Amen. Amen, and pass the biscuits. What's
and
that
the gravy? Old, don't forget the gravy.
Yeah. What's that old? You remember that company Big Dog that used to have T-shirts everywhere?
Yeah.
I think that I used to have one. I might still have it on here somewhere. It says, "If you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes."
That's exactly right. All you see is, that's kind of like the whole thing with the Monkey and the Tree Corporation. You know, like the monkeys at the top of the tree look down and all they see is smiling faces, but the monkeys down on the lower branches look up and all they see are assholes.
Oh, that's right. That's entirely true.
Oh, God. But anyway, you know, here we are, and Stephen didn't make it again, as usual. It's about, we've got about 4 minutes or so, I guess, left. Of course, my computer clock is telling me it's 10 o'clock and we have no time left. Well, I want to thank you for flying shotgun.
Hey, no
tonight.
problem. No problem. I
thought it was a little different show. Actually, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm not a professor or nothing, but I can fill in a pinch. You know what I mean?
Well, I always like talking with you because you've been on investigations with me and you've experienced a lot of the things that I talk about and the theories and things that I preach about, you've seen them and experienced them firsthand and have seen the data correlating with those experiences. So you're kind of a valuable sidekick in a lot of ways when I talk about this stuff, because you've been there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the thing I enjoyed most about the limited time that we did have together was the fact that and it wasn't even just me, anybody that walked up to you that particular weekend and asked you even a very complicated question got a very detailed, very, very to their level type of answer. And that's so unusual. There's so many people that can try to, how can I say this? They try to outspeak people.
No,
I've been accused of having a grand ego, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I'm a poor judge of myself, but I like to think that no matter how smart you are, intelligent you are, or knowledgeable you are about something, if you can't convey that information to a person at any level, you're a pretty stupid person. And I think that your knowledge, if you have knowledge, it's vastly important that you be able to share that knowledge with other people. And if you can't do that, your knowledge is useless. So I take the extra time to make sure the person I'm talking to understands what I'm trying to convey, because I want them to walk away going, wow, yeah, and then that inspires them to maybe look at what they're doing and say, I wonder if I did this, what would happen? It gives them bravery. It gives them courage to go out and do something different. Just because they didn't see it on a TV show or something doesn't mean it's wrong or it's not valid. They're experimenting. They're doing something on their own, and that's how discoveries are made.
That's right.
You don't discover something by following the same old thing that everyone else has done for the last 20 years and gotten nowhere with. Other than making proclamations, general proclamations. Oh, well, EMF, that's we're talking to a ghost because the lights are lighting up or whatever. They're going, hey, this is going on here, and there's no reason this should be going on here. Why is this going on here? And that's when answers are found. It's like, I don't hunt for ghosts, I hunt for the truth.
Yeah, and it's not, it's asking the hard questions. Collecting anomalous data, EVPs or photographs or video, collecting that's great. But it's answering, like you said, it's answering the hard questions, the how, why, when, where.
That's it. I mean, we can take a certain amount of evidence and it's interesting and it's demonstrating something weird's going on, but we still don't know what that weird is. We haven't defined it. And it's important to just not make this assumption, this assumptive proclamation that, oh, well, it's a ghost. We don't know that. We don't even know what ghost is, really. And I think it's important that we understand the mechanics of what's occurring. And, it's got to follow the laws of physics. I mean, there's no feathery realm. It's if it isn't following the laws of physics, we wouldn't see it. We wouldn't acknowledge it. It wouldn't be real in our world. And something is real in our world that we can't explain. And what we have to do is to understand which laws of physics are in play and how the interrelationship and correlation of that is working and creating this reality we're observing. Some of it's a human element. Some of it may be caused by a stimulation of our own brain, our own central nervous system, by some of these forces external to our body. But then, what's creating those external forces that are affecting our consciousness? See, it becomes a very complex situation the more you look into it, and it's not a simple answer. It's not just a ghost. It's a series of different types of phenomena, including a human element, that need to be totally understood before we can actually define it fully and understand what that word really means.
So every time somebody gets involved in the paranormal, we should have Lawrence Fishburne sitting there and go, would you like to take the blue pill? Or would you like to take the red pill?
I think we need a good narrator,
Yeah, that's true.
Like Morgan Freeman. If we just had Morgan Freeman to narrate it as we did it, it would be cool, But, like the ultimate way to die is to have Clint Eastwood shoot you and Morgan Freeman narrate it. You know, that would be the ultimate way to check out.
Or to have Chuck Norris roundhouse kick you and kill you with one kick.
Yeah, exactly.
But Chuck's pushing 78 now.
Yeah, he's in his late 70s, I think.
I'm pretty sure he could probably still kick you. It just might not have quite the oomph behind it anymore.
I'd like to hire his makeup person, whoever that is.
Well, it's the total gent.
His makeup person is a magician. Yeah.
His makeup person is paranormal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's demons there, man. I'm telling you. But anyway, I want to thank you for sitting in tonight. I think it was a great show. It was an interesting conversation. And in the spirit of the Devil's Advocate, it was literally the Devil's Advocate on many issues. Hopefully we'll get good fallout from it. And, you know, I won't have a whole new series of haters after me.
All publicity is good publicity. And what was the new sponsor, David? What was his name again?
The new sponsor is author Clay Smith, who also has a radio show on another network. But he wrote this book called "All You Know Is What You Think You Know," and it's not a very thick book. It's very thin. I started reading it, and it's essentially based on his experiences. And he weighs in on a lot of different things. He weighs in on ghosts. He weighs in on shamanism. He weighs in on a lot of different things from his personal perspective. And it's a heavy read, but a light read. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a very spiritual read, but it's not a complex book to read. It's the kind of book that you could sit down and read in an evening, but it's the kind of book that you'll probably go back to and read three more times and get something different out of it every time you read it, even though it's not a very large book. So,
and I just want to leave everybody else and then I'm done. I want to leave everybody with this quote by Mark Twain. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Oh,
my God. That is the gospel truth there. Absolutely. Well, I just want to say thanks, everybody, for watching. Join us in 2 weeks. Hopefully, Stephen will be back with us, and we can talk about even other different interesting things. And thanks for watching, and good night from the Devil's Advocate. To light.
Well, but David, we have the CDC. We have the Center for Disease Control. Surely the Center for Disease Control knows what they're doing.
Well, I listened to the government appointee that the current administration put in charge of it speak the other day. And again, I did not get a whole lot of warm and cuddlies from his speech.
Well, at least he didn't sit there and say, "Hold my beer," you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, if we look at it realistically, it originated from Liberia in this case, and Africa is not known for its good hygiene or any of that nature, and we do have a little bit of a stand on how we treat these sort of things in a more modern term, but still and yet, it's a dangerous disease. It attacks the young and the very old and generally kills them, while the in-betweens do get it, but generally have a higher capability of surviving it. I don't think anyone that catches it in this country, it's an automatic death sentence. I'm pretty sure that we can save a vast majority of those who do get infected. The problem is there some kind of government neglect here, do you think?
Well, to even allow it in the country shows the problems that we have with people with the holes in our border. Our border is perforated, and that's being kind.
Oh yeah, you know, I totally agree with you. You know, for when a country loses its borders, it ceases to become a country anymore. And that's part of what's going on here. I think when the Ebola thing broke out, there are two things that happened that were disturbing to me. One is that when we actually sent people over there, that was the first thing. Why are we sending people over there? The second thing is when we had two of our people get infected with the disease, we bring them back to this country to treat them. That seems kind of, I don't know, stupid to me.
At least a gamble that should have never been taken.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree with that. And the thing is that Yeah, sure, bringing them back to Atlanta to treat them. Yeah, I can understand that. But here you've got a person flying in from Liberia. Why are we not quarantining all flights coming in from Liberia until this is under control?
That's true, and I can tell you from experience, there's a huge Nigerian population, other African countries there too. Population in Dallas. Awesome people, very hardworking people. It's just like you said, their home country is not known for its medical record, its hygiene. That's why there's so many shots you have to take if you do go there. Correct?
Yeah, and rightly so. And I'm not, I'm not really pointing the finger at anybody here. I'm asking questions. There's things about it that I don't quite understand. Ebola is not the only thing we're dealing with here. We've got this virus that's just made the news today in Richmond, Virginia, where children are coming down with this kind of a respiratory virus, and it's very disturbing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Devils Advocate. Tonight I have Brother Eric Ressinger sitting in, flying co-pilot until my co-host, Dr. Stephen Rourke, gets home from college or from school, wherever he is teaching. But that's cool because we were going to talk about a few things that are kind of like in the news lately. And the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is this whole Ebola thing. Eric, you live in Texas.
Yeah, I live in East Texas, closer to Shreveport than Dallas, but with the way Ebola can propagate and spread, that doesn't mean it won't be here tomorrow.
Yeah, there is some undue fear about Ebola. The fact that Ebola is not an airborne contagion, that it does require coming into contact with an individual and body fluids to exchange. But, that's as simple as, talking to someone with, spit coming out of your mouth or sneezing on someone or whatever that can do that. Brandy, my fiance, and her children lived right outside of Dallas. And I'm just very grateful that I got them out of there, because the way the government is handling this thing is not giving me warm and cuddlies inside as more and more details about this are coming. Because no one's making any progress with this thing, and it affects children, and it can cause paralysis. And there's just things that, I just don't have a lot of faith in the government lately, based on the performance here lately of the Secret Service letting a person get all the way to the green room in the White House before they're stopped. I see where the director of the Secret Service resigned today. I think that's probably a good step in the right direction. The warning system that was installed in the White House to protect our president was turned off because the usher's office had issues with it going off. It was too loud for them. I mean, really, we care about the ushers dealing with sound pollution rather than the president of the United States' life? I mean, I may not agree with the policies of our president, but he's our president. You know, we're supposed to protect him. It seems like the government is falling apart on numerous levels, and I'm not really sure what that is.
Yeah, well, if you want my opinion, well, I'm going to give it to you anyway. That goes back to from the very top. It's mismanagement. That's been my issue with our current leader now since he took office. Is he has never been a proven manager, and if you're not a manager, you have no business being in that office at all.
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing that with this whole ISIS thing. I mean, he doesn't take responsibility for anything. Number one, that's something that's disturbing to me. The other thing that happened here is, you know, he makes like he didn't know anything about what was going on. He gets an intelligent briefing every day. He gets an intelligent paper every day with